So, little case for a folding knife. I've been using this a fair bit. It is a good way to carry a folder. So you can see the problem here. Alright, so we started to lose a little bit of the stitching. So this video is just going to take you through the repair process for this little pouch, and it's really going to illustrate the point of why hand sewn leather is far superior to anything that's sewn by machine as far as leather goes. Okay, so let's have a look at this guy, and we can see the problem area here. Okay, and this has just kind of happened naturally. As you can see, it's just an area where it's received a lot of wear. Okay, I picked this up secondhand and I do rather like it, so I want to repair it. So again, the problem with this kind of stitching is, you know, once it's done that, the game's really up. Okay, because as soon as something hits that, it's caught in a bramble, a thorn or whatever like that, it'll just slowly unravel. Okay, like that. It's just broken there. But you can see, just, you know, it's pretty weak. Okay, that style of stitching. Okay, and this is the same way that, you know, fabric is stitched. It's the same machine stitching that's used on fabric. Alright, and it's just a weaker bond than hand sewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get all that off now, and, you know, I'm going to re-stitch this whole guy. Alright, and I'll probably redo these bits as well, and then I'll just show you the technique of pony stitching. So once it's stitched up, I'll just give it a little bit of treatment with beeswax, and she'll be good to go for a couple of more years. So there you go, just breaking this guy down into its component parts. Okay, one of the things about machine, if you're in doubt whether it's hand sewn or machine sewn, with machine sewn leather you will always see a little bit of a line here, alright, usually on the inside, and that's the foot of the sewing machine. Okay, it leaves a mark. That's another downside to, you can see it there, another downside to machine sewn leather. And like I say, once you get that failure, you know, it kind of pretty quickly, the game's up, it cascades out of, you know, gets worse. It's a kind of cascade effect, and one stitch will go and another stitch will go, right? And it's pretty much nothing for it but to re-stitch the whole sheath. So this guy's not done too bad for how old it is, probably maybe about 20-30 years old. Not bad for a machine made, factory made piece of kit. Probably originally it would have been a buck folder or something like that. Like I say, I just picked it up for a couple of bucks at a local junk store, do you know what I mean? But we'll start the process of putting this back together, and once it's back together, this leather will be fine for a long time. You know, we'll give that a little bit of a treatment with beeswax, and we should get, you know, a good 10 years at least more out of this piece of kit. The original thread looks like it was linen thread, alright, which is a little bit weaker. Most stuff that comes out of factories today seems to be nylon. Alright, you can usually tell the difference in the way it burns. Okay, when you burn nylon thread like this, it tends not to leave sort of quite a plasticky kind of residue to it. This is nylon thread, and it kind of burns differently. So nylon thread will always burn like that. Okay, so you can usually tell the difference between nylon thread and linen thread. Linen thread's a little bit more traditional. You know, if you were a historical reenactor, you would probably want to use linen thread, but I find nylon thread is a little bit more practical. It's just stronger, it has a higher breaking strain, and also the other thing about nylon thread is it's pretty impervious to any kind of chemical that will come in contact with the stitching. Some of the treatments like mink oil and some of the kind of lower grade leather treatments that some people might use can degenerate the stitching. This stitching's quite degenerated, so I think it might have been in contact, it might just be age, but it might have been in contact with something that's cause it to crumble a little bit. It's hard to tell. But just start the process of putting this back together now. Okay, it's starting to rain, so it's a bit of pitter patter in the background. But as you can see, I've done quite a lot of progress, coming along quite nicely. I'm just going to continue with the pony stitching, alright. So with pony stitching, quite often you'll put this in a clamp, but with this kind of thing you can just kind of go freehand. Okay, and you'll need a pair of pliers. So that one comes through nice and tight, that's one needle. Then you've got your second needle, and we'll line that guy up, he goes through. Again with the pliers, just get that last little bit through of the eye of the needle. So make sure it's tight, go for the next one, and we just carry on like that. And these are just the holes. I'm just sort of using the holes that are already been there from the machine stitching. But this method of pony stitching, this is a much stronger type of stitching than the machine stitching, okay? If down the line the same thing happened again and it wore this stitching out, this will hold together, alright? It won't unravel like I showed you with that other machine stitching, okay? So I'll carry on with this on the last run now. As you can see, nearly finished, and we'll put a little bit of beeswax treatment in it, and it should be good to go for a few more years. That was really